The content, views, and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and do not necessarily reflect the view and opinions of the City of Bremerton, BCAT, their officials, or their employees.
Welcome, dear viewers, to a very special episode of Afternoons with Ash. As the air turns crisp and the nights grow longer, we find ourselves on the threshold of Samhain, a time we are told when the veil between the dark and the light thins, and magic feels just a little bit closer. Today, as we close upon this sacred threshold, we're going to dive deep into the art and practice of modern witchcraft, with two incredible guests who are leading the charge in both the mystical and digital realms. Kate Millward, priestess for hire, and Kristal Thomas, founder of the Unveiled Spirit, are here to share their journey of empowerment, spirituality, and community through their podcast, Witching Out Loud. So grab your broomsticks, light your candles, and let's stir this cauldron together. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I appreciate y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Kate, Kristal. Today is a really exciting show for me. As I mentioned in the lead up, we're right on the threshold of this most sacred of days, Samhain. It's a really exciting time of year for me. And it's a really exciting episode because we have the opportunity to do something a little bit spooky, and that tends to be your corner of the woods. Y'all both have independent businesses that kind of deal with the mystical and the metaphysical, and you have come together and created this very exciting podcast, Witching Out Loud. And I really wanted to expose that to our viewers and kind of talk about that a little bit. Let's start with the rise of modern witchcraft. Over the past few years, witchcraft has kind of stepped out of the shadows and right into our feeds, especially with movements like #WitchTalk. From spell work to self-care rituals, witchcraft is more than just casting spells. It's about empowerment, connection, transformation. How do you see modern witchcraft evolving, and how does it differ from some of the more traditional practices?
Yeah. She just hands it right to me.
Default.
I love it. Wow. That's a big question, and I struggled on how to answer it. It's like modern witchcraft is such a mix of old and new that it's really hard to pin it down, and it's hard to pin it down because of different practices. Like the way Kate practices versus how I practice is so very different. But I see where we're going as something really big, that people are so drawn to the mystical, and because science is starting to prove how magic works. So it has some depth and reality to it versus just faith-based or woo-woo.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helping it come forward. Plus, people are just searching for ways to connect and to feel less powerless and feel more like they belong to something bigger than they are. And many religions aren't giving them that. Whereas in Wicca, in witchcraft, in the spiritual realm that we both live in, there is an empowerment of being able to take control of your spiritual life, your daily life, your physical life through magic. So I see it as only becoming bigger and more open. It's part of why we both discussed witching out loud and being out loud with our practice. I've been practicing for 37 years and never talked about it.
Not in a restaurant.
Right? Which is how we started the podcast.
Yeah, and I feel like during the pandemic, we really noticed that our institutions failed us. And we felt that very, very keenly, that we couldn't rely on these institutions that had told us they would be there for us. So we started innovating in a pretty big way of like, what does it mean when the institution doesn't show up for me and I have to provide for my own mental health and self-care during a really scary time? So, sorry, I touched my microphone.
This is one of those podcasts that I really love because, as you mentioned, empowerment is a central theme. As we look at the history of witchcraft classically, women are persecuted for practicing these rituals, invocations, things of that nature. And now we're seeing it become something that gives power to women. Both of you come from different backgrounds, and you've been able to blend that together. Tell me about the power that this has created in your lives, because you do have businesses that deal with this type of practice.
As you were talking, I was thinking, like, our modern witchcraft is really only since the 1940s that it was organized and written down as a practice. So it's pretty modern as far as religions go, but based in that old pagan mindset. And I think since the 80s, it started to become this reclaiming of the word witch and witchcraft as a way for women to take that power back. And it's why I started calling myself a witch out loud, is I'm taking that power back. You can't make me be evil because you want to take my power away. That's not happening. Right. So I think that's really put this rise to it. And in the pandemic, I started working with a group online. I teach them basic magic skills every Thursday for 2 hours for 3 years now. And that's where I started going, this information needs to be out there more, because people need to be able to take better control of their mental health, of their spiritual health, and their well-being. And I saw how big of a difference it was making in these women that I was working with. And that's why I decided to start Unveiled and move into spiritual training, facilitation, and teaching, as well as my life coaching, just to step into that space and take the risk of, I own another business here in Kitsap County, and take the risk that some people aren't going to be happy about that, and that's okay.
Yeah, and once the pandemic was done, I needed a way to come out and connect with the Bremerton community, because I'd gotten here right before and then was ready to, join the world, and then the pandemic started. So I'd been here 3 years and still hadn't quite hit the ground in a social way. So I used tarot to connect and to meet people. And in my work through tarot, I was seeing that people were really craving facilitation. Like, how do I see that I'm here and I know I want to get here, but I don't really quite have the steps. And normally we would probably go to a life coach to do that, which Kristal does, and I actually would love to do. But I enjoy doing it from a spiritual perspective of, like, can you make a shrine toward that goal? Can you create an invocation toward that goal? And people were very responsive to, oh, yeah, I can totally make a shrine. And what we're doing is creating new neurological pathways, science, right? But we're trying to direct them to the evidence of the goal that they want to achieve, not the drudgery of goal achievement every single day. So people were very, very responsive, and so I formed Priestess for Hire, because I want to create ritual that facilitates people through the thresholds of life. We don't have rituals anymore that mark our milestones and our transitions in life, and I want to be there for that. So we're both addressing this. People are craving a different way. The science supports it now, but they don't want to rely on the institutions that they've been told so long have all the answers.
And unlike when I first started exploring, there weren't that many resources. Now there are resources everywhere, and not all of them are correct. And so I definitely wanted to be a place where people could learn that was safe, where my magic is backed up by years of experience of doing it, so they could learn safely and in an environment where they're not judged for where they're starting at.
And now you two have found each other, and through this collaboration, you've created this amazing podcast. It's been just a well of information, and once you guys hit the ground running, I have to say it has not stopped. We're moving into double digits on episodes now. You've been slowly releasing.
We're breaking 200 today.
I'm so excited. So many downloads already.
So
that feels good.
In celebration of that, I kind of stylized today's episode around one of the Witching Out Loud episodes that is due to be released soon, which is the Samhain episode. Without giving it too much away, let's talk a little bit about that. Now, my first takeaway here, and you mentioned it right off in the episode, But even outside of it, it's always the first trip up. People pronounce it Samhain. Samhain. What is Samhain? And what do folks need to know about this wonderful time of year that maybe they're not aware of that you could share with us today?
Absolutely. Samhain, and I know it doesn't look anything like how it's spelled, but Samhain is Celtic. It comes from Gaelic, so it's definitely pronounced a lot different than it's spelled, but it's a Celtic festival. It's the harvest festival. It's the midpoint between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. Us witches like to party, so if there's the equinoxes and then we decided we had to put all this stuff in the middle because it was too far between parties,
And
I
moons.
think. And
Put the moons in there. Like every week there's a reason to have a ritual of some kind.
Yeah, but this is really the witch's new year. It's the beginning of the year for us, whereas January is the beginning of the Gregorian calendar, but it's the beginning of the year for us because it's when we go completely dark. So our world is around cycles of death, rebirth, and that whole cycle moving through. So in Samhain, the world is going dark. We've made the last harvest. We've brought all the livestock in for the winter. And now it's time to go introspective, think about what seeds that we've sown through the year, and then start moving into what we want to create for the next year. So when the sun comes back on winter solstice, then we can start planting.
Too soon.
Kate, I know through listening to the episodes, you always have some fun little rituals that
Yes.
you like to do throughout the year. Do you have any suggestions for folks who would like to observe Samhain at home on a way they might be able to be more festive at this time of year?
Yeah, one way is you could start with, this is the final harvest, this is the end of it. Another way, and so you consider everything that you've already done. You take an inventory of the past year, the past season. You can do that. It's also ancestor worship time. The veil is thin, so spirits can communicate with us a little more clearly. So I have a candle that I burn specifically only on this day, my Razzle Dazzle ancestor candle.
I love it so much.
And you can put offerings on your altar to the spirits that you would like to invite in, that you need to know something, you want to communicate a little bit more with them. So if there's something particular that Grandma really liked, put that on your altar and tell her that you would love her company for that time. You can also kind of when you're doing your inventory, think forward as well. Like, what do I want to plant this winter so that by the time the sun is back in the spring, we're ready to grow that. We're ready to see that start to take root. But very particularly, this is a great time of year to work with your ancestors, to invite them in, to recognize them, to thank them, and to invoke their blessings for your coming efforts.
Witching Out Loud is very palatable. What would you say to folks who are watching this at home, who are thinking about getting into witchcraft? Where can they find you guys? What would you like them to know about this podcast and why it's so important?
Well, they can find us at Witching Out Loud anywhere that they look for podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Outcast, wherever they go. Or they can go, there's a spot on my website, theunveiledspirit.com, and it's titled Witching Out Loud right up top, so they can click on that and read about each of us. Our bios are on there, our pictures and where we came from, all of that, so they can get tons of information there. And I would say listen, and the beautiful thing about witchcraft is it's a craft, it's a practice. And take the things that fit and leave the stuff that doesn't. There aren't really any rules or dogma in what we do. So it's really, hey, tarot seems cool. Let me check that out and pay attention to that episode. So the episodes aren't back to back. You can skip around as much as you want and look at what's interesting to you. And then you can always reach out to either one of us. I'm the Unveiled Spirit on Instagram, Facebook, and my website. So you can find me and sign up for lessons one-on-one or spiritual coaching. And
Yeah, and I'm Stars and Moon Tarot and Priestess for Hire on Instagram, so you can find me on those as well.
You guys also recently developed a tarot-based horoscope for one of our local publications. I imagine most folks in Kitsap County are familiar with. That's the Smokestack newspaper. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe you can allude to what some folks might be able to expect in the months coming.
So that was a blast. That collaboration, it was exciting to get the direction from Bill and be like, yep, this is what we want and this is what we're going to go with it. So we start with, I draw tarot cards for each sign. So the astrological signs have elements associated with them. So water signs, fire signs, earth signs, and air signs.
Yeah.
And so I'll draw a card for each element, and that encompasses the zodiac sign associated with that element. And that way we're not trying to write, 12 different tarot scopes and fit them into a publication that allotted us 500 words. Like that was very important to respect that amount of space. So I write a couple sentences based on the inspiration I get from the cards that I pull, and then I send it off to Kristal, and she takes it into guidance with her guides, and her guides have more to add to it. So it's truly a collaboration between me, my guides, her, and her guides, and then we end up with a short paragraph for each element of like what to look forward to in the month and what to watch out for and where to put your efforts. And so I think it's a really great way to playfully look ahead and organize your energy for what's worth focusing on in the coming calendar month.
When he said, I'd like you guys to do a horoscope, I was like, I don't know how to do a horoscope.
Never done that.
I'm a necromancer. Necromancers aren't funny.
I'm not an astrologer. Right?
And my spirit guides are having a blast with it. Like they think it's the funniest thing ever. So I look forward to getting my cards from her and stepping into that ritual space and seeing what they have to say. But they always have some funny zinger to add in there. So it's been really fun.
Yeah.
I have to say the dynamic between you two in the podcast is lovely. The subjects are always interesting. It's a very nice bite-sized podcast that you can listen to on your way to work or on your way home or even when you get there. It involves not just subjects but an invocation as well that is different with each one. I think blessed is a good term for it. We're all very blessed that you two have collaborated and created this in a world where religious persecution has led to the estrangement of so many throughout the years. It's good to see people, if you will allow me to borrow the term, unveiling their true selves and also finding a way to be a little closer with nature in a world that seems to just want to burn, So it's really beautiful what you guys do, and I just want to thank you for being on the show today and sharing that with us. What episode's coming out next, and when can we expect to hear it?
Thanks. Well, we launch every Tuesday, so you get a new one every Tuesday. We just launched Shadow Work, which is a big piece. So that's a nice place to start if you don't know where to start on looking at all the bits and pieces in your shadow on how you can move forward and use that in your practice.
Integrate those parts. Like it got pretty deep and warm. Like I feel like our tone is cozy and warm, and we got pretty vulnerable and like this is what shadow work looks like and what it means and the value of being able to integrate these parts back into yourself and be a more whole person. So I really recommend that episode. It felt above and beyond what we'd done already.
Yeah. And then our next one, of course, is Samhain.
Well, in closing, I want to thank you and wish you both a wonderful Samhain. I'm really excited to see what the future holds for both of your businesses, as well as your collaboration with Witching Out Loud. And it brought me so much joy and excitement to see the horoscopes in print. I really think this is going to be an exciting thing for Kitsap County and the practitioners who exist here and even further. So I really look forward to seeing where you go, and I really appreciate you all being on the show today.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank
merry
you.
Meet, merry part, and merry meet again.
As we bring today's journey to a close, remember magic is everywhere. It's in the way we honor our ancestors. It's in the rituals we perform to let go and grow. And it's also in the connections that we make with each other. Kate and Kristal have shown us how modern witchcraft is not just a practice, but a way of life, one that is deeply personal, empowering, and transformative. So if you are seeking to dive deeper, check out Witching Out Loud for more insights into the mystical world. And don't miss their tarot horoscopes in the Kitsap smokestack. Before we go, Please don't forget to check out Doc Loves the Kids and the Kitsap Community Foundation. These two incredible organizations are making a difference in our community. And please don't forget to tune in every week to Afternoons with Ash. You know where to find us. Until next time, stay grounded, stay magical, and remember that true power is always within you.
You can find all of our episodes on our YouTube channel and catch the live broadcasts on BCAT, as well as all the extras at Afternoons with Ash Black on Facebook.
Thank you.